You may recall a few months ago when I replaced the front control arms on my B8 A4 with 034 density line arms. Well, today I'm basically doing the same thing with a slightly older car, my B6 Audi A4. In the last episode of this car, which admittedly feels like an eternity ago, I updated pretty much everything I could in the rear suspension in order to refresh all of the worn bushings and tighten everything up for better handling. The plan for that video was to do all of the suspension, including the front, but as with everything on this car, it spiraled and took way longer than it needed to. So we're back again, and I am determined to finish the suspension. We got solid bushings for the front subframe, new lower control arms, new outer tie rod ends, and new adjustable upper control arms, all from 034. The goal here, if it wasn't already obvious, improve handling, and just finish what I started. And guess what? This one spirals out of control too. Let's get into it. So one challenge here immediately is this pinch bolt up here. I addressed this in the B8 video as well, but this one is just as awful to get out. Actually, a little more awful, I would think, because there's a 16 millimeter nut on the end that you can't really get a socket onto. So you kind of have to use a wrench, and my ratcheting wrenches are too thick, so basically just have to use this, and then lots and lots of impact, heat, penetrant oil, just repeated heat and impact, and then eventually it gets out. When you do something like this, these boots are pretty much done for, so you don't want to reuse them if you're taking your knuckle out. So basically, if you have the opportunity to avoid taking this pinch bolt out, I would recommend avoiding it. But if you do take it out, it's a good time to replace these control arms, especially if they're OEM, because this car's a 2004, so it's been almost 20 years since this car was made. So it's probably about time we take these ball joints out. So yeah, onto lots and lots and lots of impact. If it's not already clear, this job is nearly impossible without an impact, and it is not one you'd want to do in a time crunch. Each pinch bolt took me at least 30 minutes straight of heat and impact, and I got lucky. Nothing broke. As I said before, these boots are done for, which is why I don't mind using the pickle fork to remove them. You can see just how crusty everything is in there. Obviously, I'm sort of zipping through all of this, so apologies if you're looking for a hyper-detailed how-to, but basically, remove everything. And if you're unable to tackle that, maybe don't try this on your own. It took quite a while to get all of the old, nearly seized and rusty bolts out, but with those gone, I can finally get the front subframe out, which actually comes out relatively easy compared to the rear. In the last video, I spent multiple days stripping and refinishing my rear subframe. While that did make for a satisfying end product, I really just don't have time for that again. So I'm attempting to just remove the stock bushings with a screwdriver and hammer, which is pretty easy, and then quickly install new solid bushings. But this is where things start to not go as planned. No matter how much I try to impact or hammer them into place, like I did with the rear subframe, they will not budge. I've tried freezing the bushings and heating the subframe to get them to fit, and still no luck. I even broke my vise trying to use it to get them to seat.
You really need a press for something like this. Luckily, I have great friends, including Jay Bullington from JXB Performance, who is willing to help me out with his hydraulic press. If you have an Audi, he has parts for you.
So after like 15,000 pounds of force, I think, from a 20-ton hydraulic press, thanks to Jay at JXB Performance, I was able to get these in. So I should say, if you're going this route, this is kind of an irreversible mod. I don't think these are ever coming out. Not that I need them to, but something to consider. Yeah, I mean, would have been a little easier if I refinished this subframe too, but it's just too much, and this one is in horrible shape. So, yeah, let's get it back in the car, and then I can finally get everything else back together.
With all the old stuff successfully removed and the subframe finally back together, it's time to say sayonara to the aged control arms. Out with the old and in with the new. When replacing control arms, 034 and I'm pretty sure Audi as well recommend replacing your outer tie rod end, which you can also conveniently purchase from 034. And unsurprisingly, both of my tie rods are seized together like Chinese food and chocolate pudding, so I need to cut them apart and replace the inner end as well. Yippee! But with that, I can now get to the star of the show, my adjustable upper control arms. These are vital to handling performance with basically any Audi. They allow for extremely precise camber control, letting you dial in your car's alignment exactly to your desired specifications. And they look pretty sick.
So while that took forever, now comes another long part, aligning everything. I replaced 2 outer tie rods, 1 inner tie rod, and also have adjustable upper control arms that adjust camber. So first I'll do the tie rods to adjust my toe to make sure it's straight. I set the steering wheel straight, so now I just have to put the car down, measure the toe, put it up, change it, remeasure. It's a long process. It's a lot of back and forth, especially if you don't have a lift. And I do not have one of those. And then once I'm done with toe, then we're going to do camber. I'll probably set it just a little bit negative, and I'm positive that I'll be changing it a lot throughout the season. So, yeah, just get to it. But hey, For this, I get to use my nicer wheels that have basically brand new tires. I really only used them once last year. And the car will look a little bit better. And to me, if a car looks nice, it's more enjoyable to drive. This is my makeshift alignment setup. There's a few ways to DIY it at home. There's a plane. But obviously the best way to go about it is have a professional align your car at an alignment shop. I plan to do that in the future, but this will get me on the road at least, and I may take it to an event and see how it goes, and then see how much in alignment will fix that. But basically I'm doing the string method, which is basically you set a jack stand front and back kind of in the same line with each other, and you put a string between them and you have it just barely touching the edge of the wheel on the front and the back, and without putting any tension on it, because once you do that it just goes flat on the wheel and there's no point to this. And I had to put plates on here because the body was getting in the way. Wheels are too sunken in for that. But these plates tell me that I have a flat surface to put the string on, so I can at least tell that they're relatively in line. It's not the best way to go about it, because if one of the wheels is out of alignment, it could affect the other one. So if my rear wheel is super out of alignment, I could kind of skew the results up here. But I think pretty good here. I just measured it up, jacked it up, adjusted the tie rod, and put it back down until it seemed right. I have both left and right set to -3 degrees of camber. I measured with my phone and the help of this plate. And then the rears I'm going to adjust just a little bit because I haven't really touched those. When I did the rear suspension, I just eyeballed it and did a decent job, but I could do better. So going to adjust the toe and the camber in the rear, and then I can finally go for a drive. Oh, and before I do that, I need to torque down the adjustable control arms since I have the camber set, and I need to Loctite them. And then I'm going to double check tightness on everything else. Then I can take it for a drive.
Hi, it's a month later, and I'm finally testing the car out. It took a little while. I had some braking issues. I thought there was a leak in the lines. Turned out it wasn't, just needed to better bleed them.
Oh God, these brakes are not good. Wow.
But now I can finally, drive the car. And what better place to test it than at Autocross? There, you might notice a little bit of a trend here. I put a new suspension mod on the car. I take it to Autocross, test it out, see how it does. There's really not many better ways to safely test this kind of stuff than intricate handling course like an Autocross. So today is just kind of a shakedown run to see how all the front suspension stuff handles. I've got it set to 3 degrees negative camber in the front, -2 in the back, and the sway bar is set to full stiff. And of course I have all of the solid aluminum bushings front and rear now. So it really should give me a lot of feedback in the steering wheel. I didn't get it professionally aligned, so we'll see. It still needs to be aligned professionally. Eyeball alignments don't do as well, and my steering wheel is a little off. But I foresee this being a good handling day. It's warm, tires will grip nice, and the course is nice and fast. So I won't be stuck in first gear, which is great. But yeah, let's give it a try. The biggest things I've noticed so far is it's not rough. It still feels like an Audi, which is pretty refreshing. When you get to the point of solid subframe mounts, solid engine mounts, that kind of stuff, you're really sacrificing comfort in favor of performance. But it's not so bad. It really goes where I want to put it. So we're gonna see how I do on a course like this. It's a pretty fast course, and it looks like there's some slick spots because there's concrete and there's asphalt kind of mixing, which really helps promote driver control. So we shall see. On the asphalt, this thing really just went where I wanted it to. It's just very precise cornering, and on that last lap I really tried to push it to see how far I can go while still in it, and it went pretty well, I'd say. There's a lot more that I can do driver wise, but handling wise, this thing is set up. So I've run 8 total runs on this course for autocross with all of the new upgrades, and I would say overall it's a good purchase. If you're really looking to track your B6, it's a good way to go. And for all the stance friends out there, the adjustable control arms, it really lets you adjust camber however you want. I think that there's still plenty of adjustment left in everything. I really need to have somebody teach me how to go about doing that, because all of the stuff I've been doing, I've just basically been going in blind and figuring it out as I go. So for example, if you don't have a press, maybe consider different bushings, or have somebody else do it for you who has a press. But yeah, they're good. They're great. I would recommend. And still, the one thing that I need is a driver mod. And maybe more power. A little over 80 degrees today. I made the right decision to wear pants. Great idea.